Africa is a continent where history doesn't whisper from old books, it roars from the earth itself. Every kingdom, every tribe, every lost city carries mysteries that historians still struggle to decode. And today, we step into a world of shadowed legends, forgotten rulers, and extraordinary individuals whose lives shaped civilizations, yet their stories remain hidden from most of the world. So sit back, because this journey isn't just about history. It's about rediscovering identities buried under centuries of silence. Our story begins far in the east of Africa, in the ancient kingdom of Axum. Imagine the year is 330 AD. Caravans are moving through dusty trade routes, gold is flowing in, and ivory is prized more than diamonds today. And standing at the center of this empire is a ruler whose name echoes through time, but whose full story remains a mystery: King Ezana. Historians know he was powerful, but what they can't fully explain is how this young ruler transformed an entire empire from a pagan kingdom into one of the world's earliest Christian states. Some inscriptions say he had a mentor named Frumentius, a foreigner captured as a child and raised in the king's court. But no one knows exactly how this foreign child gained the trust of royalty or how he influenced an empire's spiritual direction. It is one of the earliest examples of how a single relationship, born from conflict, reshaped the destiny of millions. Move westward across the Sahara and you reach one of the richest men in all of human history. Not wealthy by modern billionaire standards, no. We are talking about a man whose fortune was so vast that when he traveled, entire economies shook. His name Mansa Musa of Mali. Everyone knows the famous moment when he arrived in Cairo carrying so much gold that the value of gold dropped for years. But what most people don't know is the silence around the man himself. No paintings, no carvings, no statues survived describing his face. The world remembers his wealth, but not his human side. Several Arabic historians wrote about him, yet even they disagreed. Some said he was humble, others said he was strict, others that he barely spoke. And then there's the mystery of Timbuktu. When Musa built Timbuktu into a center of knowledge, thousands of manuscripts were created in astronomy, medicine, math. But nobody knows how many still lie untouched in desert homes, guarded by families for centuries. It's like the world only got to see the surface of Musa's legacy. Beneath it lies a hidden world of scholars, scientists, and libraries that challenge the idea that Africa lacked written history.
Travel now to the Horn of Africa, where we meet a queen whose identity is still debated: Queen Yodit, also called Gudit or Judith. Some stories say she was a Jewish queen who destroyed the Axumite Empire. Others say she was a Christian warrior fighting injustice. Some describe her as a tyrant, others as a liberator. No two sources agree on who she really was, and that alone makes her one of Africa's most mysterious figures. Imagine a queen so powerful that she ruled for 40 years, yet historians don't even know what her real name was. It's a reminder that history isn't always written by the winners, sometimes it's written by outsiders who misunderstood her intentions. Some legends claim she burned churches, others say she defended her people from exploitation. But the truth remains buried in oral stories whispered around Ethiopian highlands, carried through generations like a secret guarded by time. Further south, deep in the forests of the Congo, lived a ruler whose name still feels like a puzzle: King Lukini Luanimi, the founder of the Kingdom of Congo. His origins are uncertain, his lineage disputed, and even the exact date of the kingdom's founding remains unknown. But what amazes historians is the advanced organizational system he created. He built a kingdom with provinces, courts, tax systems, even diplomatic missions, all before most of Europe could agree on its own borders. And yet, ask 10 historians how he did it, and you'll hear 10 different answers. Some say he united tribes through diplomacy, others insist it was through conquest. Oral traditions mention dreams, prophecies, and spiritual visions that guided him. But no written documents from his lifetime exist to confirm any of it. Imagine creating a political system that lasts centuries, but your own story vanishes into the mist. Then we cross into the Swahili coast, where stories of the legendary ruler known as the Queen of Sheba intertwine with African, Arabian, and biblical traditions. Ethiopia believes she was Makeda, Yemen claims she was Bilqis. But what's less known is that along the Kenyan and Tanzanian coasts, local legends say she once traveled this shoreline, leaving behind royal families who trace their bloodline to her. Archaeologists have found ruins of ancient palaces and trade centers that suggest a powerful female leader once controlled key ports. But whether this was Makeda, Bilqis, or an entirely different queen lost to history, nobody knows. The mystery grows deeper with every excavation.
Now step into the deserts of Morocco and meet the man whose story reads like a historical thriller, Ibn Battuta. Most people call him a traveler, but that word doesn't do justice to his journey. He traveled more than Marco Polo, wrote more descriptions than most ancient explorers, and documented cultures across Africa that had never been recorded. But even here, mystery follows him. Some historians believe he exaggerated parts of his travels. Others say scribes added stories he never witnessed. Did he truly visit every location he claimed? Or were some tales told to impress the royal courts he served? For example, his description of the Mali Empire is one of the earliest written sources we have, but some details contradict archaeological evidence. It's like trying to separate fact from storytelling in a man whose life was a blend of both. Then there is the forgotten emperor of Zimbabwe's ancient stone city, Great Zimbabwe. The builders left behind massive stone walls, towers, and complexes so advanced that early Europeans refused to believe Africans built them. They invented myths, blaming Phoenicians, Arabs, or even lost tribes of Israel. Today, we know for certain that the Shona people built it. But who was the ruler who ordered this city? No names survived. Imagine a king who controlled a trade empire stretching from the gold mines of the interior to the coasts where merchants from Persia and China arrived, yet his identity is erased. Even the purpose of the giant stone tower remains unknown. Was it a royal symbol? A granary? A spiritual monument? Every explanation opens more questions than answers. Now travel to medieval Ethiopia again, where we uncover the story of Emperor Lalibela, a man who built 11 churches carved entirely from single pieces of rock. But here's the mystery. Local tradition says angels helped him. Engineers today still struggle to explain how a medieval kingdom managed such precision without modern tools. Some tunnels and chambers are aligned perfectly with celestial patterns, hinting at advanced astronomical knowledge. But no records survive describing the workers, the architects, or even the timeline. It's like the people built these masterpieces in silence, letting the stones speak instead of their names. One of the most fascinating figures in African history is Shaka Zulu. We know him as a warrior king who transformed the Zulu nation into a military powerhouse. But scrub away the layers of colonial writings and you discover mysteries beneath. Was Shaka a brutal tyrant or a misunderstood reformer? Early European records portray him as savage, but many of those writers never met him and relied on hearsay. Archaeologists now say much of his story was exaggerated. For example, the claim that he ordered mass killings after his mother's death is likely propaganda invented by colonial officials. But if that's false, then who was the real Shaka? A brilliant strategist, a visionary leader, a misunderstood king. His true personality is lost behind layers of stories designed to control how the world viewed African power. As we move through history, another mystery appears: Queens Inga of Ndongo and Matamba. She is remembered as the queen who negotiated with the Portuguese while sitting on the back of her own servant, refusing to sit lower than them. But there is more myth than truth in many retellings. Some accounts praise her diplomacy, others accuse her of cruelty. Some say she led armies herself into battle. Others claim she never stepped onto the battlefield. Which version is true? No one can be certain. But one thing is clear: she was smart enough and powerful enough to terrify European colonizers for decades. We cannot forget the sand healers and shamans of southern Africa, whose trance dances and spiritual visions have been recorded for thousands of years. But even today, scientists can't fully explain the paintings on cave walls showing figures with elongated limbs, half-human, half-animal forms, and symbols that appear to map stars or spiritual journeys. Were these ordinary rituals or connections to unseen worlds? The healers believe their spirits travel during these dances, and while anthropologists try to decode them, many admit they still don't understand the deeper meanings. Another mystery lies in the ancient city of Benin. The Benin bronzes are among the finest metal artworks ever created, so advanced that many Europeans refuse to believe Africans made them. The bronzes show kings, warriors, queens, ceremonies, all in extraordinary detail. But the mystery is not the art itself, it's the artists. Their names were never recorded. Entire dynasties of master bronze workers lived and died, leaving behind masterpieces but no written trace of their identities. It's one of the greatest artistic traditions in history, created by ghosts whose names we will never know. We move next to the kingdom of Dahomey, home to the legendary all-women military regiment known today as the Dahomey Amazons. These warriors fought with unmatched discipline and fearlessness. But the mystery is why and how this military system emerged. Some historians claim it began when the king's wives volunteered to defend the palace. Others suggest it was tradition adopted from earlier tribes. The truth remains uncertain. We know these women were elite fighters. We know they trained harder than men. But we don't know who founded this regiment or how the first generation of warriors trained. Their early leaders' names are entirely unknown. There are also the Dogon people of Mali, whose astronomical knowledge has puzzled scientists for decades. They have ancient stories describing the Sirius star system with details modern telescopes only confirmed recently. Some researchers argue this knowledge came from early contact with traders. Others suggest it was misinterpreted by outsiders. And of course, fringe theorists claim the Dogon had extraterrestrial contact. But when you speak to the Dogon elders themselves, they say their knowledge comes from ancestral spirits. Whether metaphor or literal belief, the origin of their knowledge remains one of Africa's greatest scientific mysteries. And finally, there are the silent storytellers, the griots of West Africa. These are not kings, queens, or warriors, yet they hold the memory of entire nations. But here's the twist, their stories change with every generation. A griot's version of history is shaped by their experience, their audience, their personal interpretations. So, in a way, Africa's history is alive, breathing, and evolving. And that makes it incredibly difficult for historians to pin down exact facts. But maybe that is also the beauty of it. History here is not just facts, it's identity, memory, and spirit. As our journey across the continent ends, one thing becomes clear: Africa's mysterious historical figures are not just characters from the past. They are reminders of how stories shape civilizations. They show us that history is not simply a list of dates and names, it is a living river carved by human experience. And many of Africa's greatest stories remain underground, waiting for someone curious enough to uncover them. Maybe that someone is you.